Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be tackling a feeling that I think we can all relate to on some level. It's that feeling of like a spiritual longing. We're going to be looking at a devotional text, and it's based on Psalm 63.1.
Okay.
And it uses some really powerful imagery to describe like this yearning for God.
Yeah.
You know, think about like thirst or a dry and parched land, you know, that sense of just emptiness.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt that kind of spiritual dryness? I mean,
Absolutely. I think it's a universal human experience, that feeling of seeking something more, like a deeper connection. It's something that resonates across cultures and, you know, throughout history.
it really is. And the song itself lays it all out there. Psalm 63.1 says, "You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water."
Wow.
It's raw, it's honest, and it's so relatable. But the devotional points out something really interesting. This isn't just a cry for help, it's also an expression of faith.
Exactly. David, the author of the psalm, wasn't just lamenting his situation. He was affirming his belief in God's ability to meet his needs. Even in a spiritual desert, he clung to that hope and that unwavering faith. That's a powerful concept.
Yeah.
What do you think enabled him to hold on to that in the face of such intense longing?
That's a great question. And the devotional doesn't really dive into that specifically.
Yeah.
But it does talk about how we all go through these like wilderness seasons, times when we feel spiritually parched. Maybe we're going through a difficult time, or maybe we just feel disconnected from something bigger than ourselves.
Right. And it's in those times that we're most tempted to reach for those quick fixes, right? Things that promise to fill the void, but ultimately leave us feeling emptier. We might distract ourselves with endless scrolling retail therapy, overworking anything to avoid facing that inner emptiness. It's like trying to quench your thirst with salt water, you know?
I've definitely been there. It's so easy to fall into those traps. I remember a time when I was going through a really tough breakup, and I just threw myself into work, like I was working late nights, weekends, barely sleeping. I thought I was coping, but really I was just running from the pain.
It's a common reaction. We seek comfort in the tangible, the immediate.
Yeah.
But those things can only provide temporary relief.
Right.
The devotional suggests a different approach,
Okay.
one that addresses the root of the issue, actively seeking a connection with God.
And it's not just about like getting our needs met right. It's about nurturing a relationship. The devotional talks about practices like prayer, studying scripture, and participating in worship. It frames these practices as ways to connect with God on a deeper level.
And those practices can be seen as a way of finding that refreshing water in the midst of the desert. Just as water revives parched land, engaging in these spiritual practices can nourish and replenish the soul.
It's like digging a well instead of just sipping from puddles. But what about people who might not connect with traditional religious practices?
That's a good question.
Are there other ways to address this feeling of spiritual longing? Could practices from other traditions offer similar benefits?
That's an interesting question. While the devotional focuses on a specific religious context, the underlying principles of seeking connection, meaning, and purpose are universal.
Okay.
Mindfulness practices, meditation, spending time in nature, acts of service. These can all be sources of spiritual nourishment, regardless of one's beliefs.
So it's about finding what resonates with you personally, what helps you connect with that sense of something bigger than yourself. And the devotional highlights this beautiful passage from Isaiah 55.1-2. "Come, all you who are thirsty, come to the waters. Why spend money on what is not bread, and your labor on what does not satisfy? Listen to me and eat what is good." It's like this universal invitation to seek true fulfillment.
It is. It's a reminder that we are all seeking that sense of wholeness, that feeling of being truly nourished and satisfied.
And while the path may look different for each of us, the journey itself is essential.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to consider. What are the dry and parched areas in your life right now? What are you thirsting for? And where might you find those sources of true nourishment? Those practices or experiences that replenish your soul.
And perhaps an even deeper question to ponder. Why do we often hesitate to acknowledge this thirst, this longing? What would it look like to be more open about our spiritual needs and support each other in finding those wells of living water?